Bienvenidos a la fiesta en línea de...
Welcome to you all. Welcome to this party of art education through technology.
En estos momentos vamos a dar inicio a
So right now we are starting sharing the projects by our students at the Instituto de Profesores Artigas have prepared based on the knowledge they acquired from the different artists that took place in the fifth Art Congress and New Media. So I would like to thank all the artists that have contributed to the project with, and we also want to thank the students. And what they have done is that they have recreated from the art education standpoint those contents in order to transmit them in a creative way with a heterogeneous audience from different educational levels. So I would like to thank the students for their work. They have worked very hard on this. They have been very creative. I would also like to thank all the artists that are with us today: Roy Ascott, Vuk, Diana Dominguez, Monica Fleischman, Wolfgang Strauss, Angela Lopez Ruiz, Randall Parker, Graciela Tacchini, Mariela Sheregui. I would like to thank them all. I would also like to thank translation courses from the University of the Republic and the students that are now interpreting simultaneously into English and Spanish. I would also like to thank also the Institute Artigas, also the Mexican network that allows us to have this connection today. So without further ado, let's start with the first project that is called Delma Project.
Bueno, hola, ¿cómo andás? ¿Me das pantalla, Delma, si comparto?
Okay, Delma, can you share screen?
Si me decís en qué usuario estás, porque no te estoy visualizando en este momento.
Germán Mega, ¿no? Me parece.
Acá, bien. Adelante, Germán.
Bien, ¿ven todos
Go
bien?
ahead, Herman.
¿Se ve? ¿Se ve bien?
Sí. Excelente, adelante.
Bueno, muchas gracias por recibirme.
Okay, thank you very much for having me.
Vamos a empezar por lo primero.
I'm a little bit nervous.
Delma, entonces,
So this is the Denmark project. This is the project the name we found for the project. The first thing that we would like to highlight what is the focus of our proposal, the things we were interested in. These were the first questions that we took into account when deciding what to do and how to present our work. It is clear that what we are interested in is the interaction mainly, because that is the center of the whole observation, that interaction between us, students and producers of this knowledge, and also our interaction with the other students that were receiving this, attending this presentation. For us, what's important is that they take ownership of the knowledge, because we cannot learn without exploration. That's why the web format, we thought it was the right medium to use, because it was open. It would allow us to do this, to show the tools we were using and the process we went through in the creative process, so we can share the knowledge and its structure. And the most important thing is how we got to this. As Flusser said, the important thing is to get out of the black box so all the users can take ownership of the production tools. And here we have an emancipating act that allows the one browsing in this knowledge, it can get lost at will, but also it would allow them to be free of unidirectional knowledge that can filter the possibilities. This has to do with the line of thought of modernity, let's say. This view that is imposed as a unique only possibility from top to bottom. Opposed to this, we have a decolonizing turn. We have an S between brackets because it can be written both ways. And there's some discussion about that, and we want to include it and show it. So this turn basically is that the individual creates imaginary narratives of this. We want to decolonize from the web in a different way when there's no specific hierarchy and the information is open and available to everyone. You can access only through a click. So what we want to do is to open it up to different thinkers in the south region, the southern region. So here you are invited to explore in this environment.
Con los nuevos medios. Y ahora ya le doy paso a la compañera que va a presentar.
So now my colleague here will continue with the presentation.
Hola, muy buenos días.
Hello, good
Mi
morning.
nombre es Fiorella.
My name is Fiorella.
Y conjuntamente con mi compañera
And
Valentina
together
Martes,
with
ambas
Valentina,
futuras docentes de
we're going to
computación
be
visual,
visual
hemos creado
communication
un
teachers
espacio en
in
la
the
web a
future. So
partir
we
del
have
artista Roy
created
Ascott.
this
Lo que
platform on the
pretendemos
web
es
based
mostrar
on
nuevas
Roy Ascott.
percepciones
What
del
we want
trabajo
to show is
creativo
new perceptions of
y
the
la
creative
importancia
work
en
and
la
the
interacción
importance
en el arte.
of interaction in
Este
art.
proyecto trata sobre la
This project
interactividad
has to do with
y ver el arte
interactivity
como una cultura de
and
conectividad
consider
y de
art as a
participación
connectivity
por parte
culture
del
and
espectador
participation
del que
culture,
ingrese a
so
nuestra
that
página,
the audience can get involved in the
mostrando que él
process.
mismo también es parte de las
So this
producciones
can show that
artísticas, que puede
Roy
ser parte.
himself and the creator itself is part of
Las
the
nuevas generaciones
production
tienen la
and also the
necesidad de
audience.
trascender
So
las
the creation
limitaciones del
have
cuerpo,
the
del tiempo y
need
del
to go
espacio,
beyond
la
space and
necesidad de
time,
volar, de
the
extender la
need to
mano,
fly
conectar y participar.
so that you can reach
Notamos que este es el
or
futuro no solamente
participate.
del
This is the
arte,
future not
sino
only
de
of
las nuevas
art,
generaciones.
but also of the new
Y
generations.
nosotras como futuras docentes
We as future
tenemos un papel
teachers,
preponderante en
we
ayudar en
play
este
a
proceso.
fundamental role in helping in this process.
No sé si vale. Si no sigo yo. A ver. Bueno, sigo. Bueno, a partir de esta necesidad,
As from
generamos
this
la
need,
experiencia de estar
then we
en este
generated the
sitio disperso
experience
por el
of
espacio
being in this
y en un
space
tiempo que permanece,
that is in
para lograr
space in a
mostrar
constant
que el
time, so
arte
that
no es
we can
simplemente
show
una
that art is not
representación,
only
sino
a
una transformación
representation,
constante.
but also a constant
Mostrar
transformation
ideas,
to show
imágenes,
ideas,
generar
images,
experiencias
to generate
que puedan dar
experiences
lugar a la interacción entre los
that they
individuos
can
creativos que exploren nuevas
make
tecnologías.
interaction possible to those that are exploring
Al
this
recorrer el
technology.
sitio, que
If
es
you go
netamente
through the
interactivo,
website that is fully
te sumerges
interactive,
a la vida y obra de Roy,
you can see Roy's
básicamente todo
life
lo
and
que
work.
está todo relacionado a teoría de Roy,
So all Roy's
y
theories are
parte
represented on the
de
website,
producciones artísticas de él,
and they're
que
also
nos
part of
integra
his
y abraza en un
artistic
recorrido
work.
estimulante y proactivo, y que invita a desafiar,
And this invites you
a crear y
to
experimentar y
challenge,
manifestar el
create, and
arte.
experiment
Así que
through art.
eso es básicamente lo que nosotras
So
creamos,
that is basically what we
y
created.
le damos paso al siguiente compañero.
And now our next classmate has the floor. Fiorella, can you explain a little bit about some of the playful activities that you're
Tenemos
presenting
un
on the
espacio
website?
de dibujo colaborativo.
There's one
Cada
that is a collaborative
individuo que
drawing.
entre a la
So
página,
each person
ahí
that
a
gets
nuestro
into the
sitio, puede
website
hacer interactuar,
can
y
interact
cada
with the
uno,
rest,
el que entre, puede hacer su dibujo y queda todo colaborativo, va
and
quedando,
they
es
can
como un
draw
historial.
together, and then we
Después,
have a
más
history
arriba,
of all those that
tenemos
enter the
una
website.
producción de texto que es a partir
Then
de
we have a
links.
text
O sea,
production as
vos
from
escribís
links.
un texto
So you write a text,
y tiene una parte para compartir. Se
and
lo
there's a
compartís
part
a
in
otro
which you can
usuario
share
y ese
that with some
usuario
other
recibe
user,
tu texto del que vos
and the user
escribiste,
gets your text,
lo reproduce y a su
it
vez puede
reproduces
seguir
that text, and at the
escribiendo.
same time
Eso
he
también
can
a partir de
continue
una obra,
writing.
una producción artística de
This
Roy.
was born
Entonces
also
es más
from
bien
one of Roy's
como esa idea.
works.
Y después un poquito más arriba
And then if you scroll up,
está el tema, bueno, algo realizado a partir de una obra de él.
this
Después un
was
poquito
based
más
on
arriba
some
tenemos
Roy's
como
work.
experiencias. También la página tiene música. Entonces toda esta
There's
experiencia
also
va
music on the
acompañada
website,
por
so you
sonidos.
can have all these
Y bueno,
experiences
ese
and
espacio
listen
es más
to
bien
music at the
interactivo,
same
mostrando
time.
toda la
That
teoría
is
de
an
Roy,
interactive space
algunas
that shows all
producciones
Roy
que él
theories
hizo, algunas
and
exposiciones.
different examples of his work.
Y bueno, y un poquito más arriba del principio contando,
And then if you scroll up
a partir
again,
de una imagen muy ilustrativa, como una pantalla,
you have kind of a
lo
screen
que es Roy y todo
that
su pensamientos y
describes
teorías
Roy
que
and
tiene.
his theories and
Y bueno, eso
thoughts.
era básicamente lo que teníamos en
That
la
was
página.
basically what we are presenting on the website.
Continuamos entonces con Maurice Benachon.
So now we continue with Maurice Benachon.
Muy buenos días a todos.
Good morning to you all.
Bien. Innovación tecnológica, arte interactivo,
Technology innovation, neurodesign,
realidad virtual
critical function, virtual reality, digital printing, transactional aesthetics, emotions, public art. All these things and more is included here. That is telematic arts and innovation. Maurice Benayoun is a contemporary artist. He's a pioneer of the new media and has always been presented one step ahead of reality. He has included many tools of science and technology to develop art productions that go beyond reflection and show a social, political, economic, and cultural context that will allow us to analyze the changes we experiment as a society as from communication technologies. The idea here is to show on the website what we wanted to show is the interaction that can be generated between the user and the work. There's a fusion of the virtual and real worlds, the art as a medium to generate experience. That is one of the most important points of the artist. So we tried to show different examples of his work, and they have to deal with critical economic criticism. We wanted to have interaction through QR codes that are included in his work, collaborative work. So now let's see Bukosek. So I was very interested in the proposal by the teacher. It was great being able to work together. We have different pieces and we created a jigsaw puzzle. During this process, when we had to select the artist, we gather information about them. I decided to work with Vuk Kosik. That was the pioneer of net art. So I thought it was important to include him in our presentation, since this resource created access for us all. And as from there, artists use technology to create art. It is important. Vuk is important for me because as a visual communication student, we work closely together with technology, and we're using technology every day. So we invite you to find out more about this great artist and internet pioneer, and thanks to him, we can use these incredible tools that we used on an everyday basis. So Kosik Space questions what we have generated as artists, cultural institutions, when getting to know each other. The quality of the interaction. Is a digital world an effective tool for interaction? Apart from experimenting, we can invite the audience to work with us. In our website by Book Kosik, we created an interactive space for all the members of the audience. They can choose an image and send us to us by email. Fernanda, thank you very much. There's some kind of sound right at the beginning. I think, can you show us that?
Sí, Germán,
Lo
adelante.
activo entonces. Sí, yo no lo activé porque como está hablando ella, pero...
Yeah, I didn't activate the sound because, so give me a second, I will do that.
Sí.
Si quieres hacer un comentario, simplemente Germán.
Anyone has a comment? Germán, you want to make a comment? Maybe most of you don't know this sound. Well, I'm older, so I know this sound. I remember connecting through modem, and maybe it was cheaper and that sound was unbearable. The experience with this website is that when I was looking at it, I see that it was empty, it wasn't charging. I thought maybe everything got erased, and when I pressed play, I realized that they were playing with that concept, that everything took a long time to load. So I thought it was very good. I think we can start with Diana Dominguez now. I don't know if anyone has any questions. I just want to thank you for the declaration for the younger audience that had no idea about this. Thank you. Just one small thing before we start with Diana Dominguez. We're asking interpreters. The interpreters are asking if you can please slow down just a tad because you're being interpreted into English simultaneously. So thank you. Thank you. Sorry, I get nervous and I start going. Now we'll start with Diana Dominguez.
Buenas tardes.
Good
Damos
afternoon. We're going to start the blog on Diana Dominguez. She's an artist, a multimedia artist, and an investigator. She has done a lot of expositions, individual and collective, and she has been quoted in several international publications. She's an author, several articles specialized in art. Actually, now she's a coordinator of a laboratory of investigation of art, and she's a teacher. Diana Dominguez does not define her works as
que es el todo es la suma de las partes, porque el conjunto incluye todas las
so everything is a sum of its parts because
involucradas
the
por el
set
sistema.
includes the relationships of the parts that are
También
involved in
una
the system.
reflexión sobre la
Diana also
evolución de
reflects on the
procesos
aspects like
tecnologías. El cuerpo
anthropological
está
revolution that
replanteándose
new
desde
technologies represent. The
el
body is being redesigned in this processes and these capacities of processing and generating information. So it's the term biosynthetic to define the human condition. The artist also investigates on art and technoscience, and that this talks about the re-engineering of art. The actual work and future work is going to be developed in investigation and collaboration between disciplines, engineers, humanists, and artists, dissolving the limits between us. And it also asks about the sense of the technological sense in which she talks about the relations to learn about the work. It's necessary to move between boundaries. And she also plays with the spectator and the experience between the bodies that can accept and transform and respond to the biological body. Good morning. One of the examples of Diana's work, together with the Art Techno group, is one where a technological ritual is created, which is very interesting, that led us to change the way in which we looked at this. A cave in which we could see a sacrifice within it, and a bowl with blood is a sacred place where spectators walk on sensors that respond to their movements. So in this part, the behavior of the spectators will determine the life of the environment and it will change the images and the sounds in that great rock, virtual rock that is generated in the chaining of the participants. As we can see in this example, and as Kallenberg mentioned, the work, this work of Diana configures mestiza revolution. On the one hand, it can be read as a summary, as a fusion, a hybridation between the universal and things that is a model, and the memory of Latin America that refuses to disappear, and how that is linked to what we're living in today. The two aspects we can see from the educational perspective, what's Latin American, for a way to break out with the hegemonic discourse in which we think that everything comes from outside. Maybe we can find new ways to look at things. So taking this into account, these new configurations of the body and the body thought from the technologies and how we can develop the body through technology, and the potential of this connection art, because it's concrete and it has a rich poetry, opens the field for the reflection on these topics. So maybe finishing with my speech, I want to add that this last part, how this last part fuses, and to take a hybrid term, how it articulates with the concepts that have been talked about before, and the work, how it connects with that biotechnology or that biocybrid. What will become of man in art or life? How we are going to live with those things that are very interesting when everything is going to become completely interactive. Not only one of the parts is going to be interactive, if there are any parts.
Bueno, y acá estoy en un fondo del mito zombie, una obra que nos quedó fuera del speech.
We see the background of a work that we couldn't talk about, but it's very interesting to investigate. You can see it in the background of the page.
Bien, damos paso a Mónica Fleischmann y a Wolfgang.
Now we're going to start with Monica Fleischmann and Wolfgang Strauss. If anyone, maybe someone wants to say anything else about Diana Dominguez?
Y comentar muchísimo. Comentar muchísimo.
I have a lot to say, but I can't. Maybe we can exchange with the artist. Diana Dominguez is saying thank you. I'm going to ask Germán, can you stop sharing for just a second so I could configure something? Set something? Thank you. Just 1 second.
Ahora sí, adelante, Germán. Puedes compartir.
You can go on, Germán. You can share.
Vuelvo a tener el poder. Bueno, pasamos a Mónica Fleischmann y Wolfgang Strauss. Bueno, Horacio.
Hi, we start with Monica Fleischmann and Wolfgang Strauss with Horacio. Good morning. Monica Fleischmann and Wolfgang Strauss. We're going to introduce the art through the virtual platform.
Lo primero que marco son mis impresiones.
So
Lo que me
first I want to talk about what this artist generates in me in the through this virtual museum and how they work. Monica Fleischmann, she's a pioneer in virtual art and culture, together with her partner Wolfgang Strauss, also a pioneer in digital and virtual art. They work together since 1987 in media art installations and the concept of inter art. Now, in this presentation, we're going to show three works for Berlin Cyber City, which was done in 1990 with the multimedia solution.
Liquid Wave, la cual es una simulación de agua
We have a water simulation
en la que el reflejo del espectador se retrata en un monitor como en el agua real.
you can see the monitor and like it's real water, liquid.
Por último, selecciono Out of
So we
At
also
last,
have
I
a
select
final
Out of the
art
Blind,
piece
a video that
of
is
the
about a first
installation
installation of virtual
reality.
reality.
Como podemos observar en la plataforma,
As we can observe in the platform, we can upload images, videos, in case we want to accompany the journey with information and music.
pero dale sonido.
To give sound,
Sonido que al museo.
No, la obra Liquid Wave.
give a sound to the work, liquid base.
Esta obra, además de simular el agua, tiene el sonido.
Apart from
¿no?
simulating the sound, we have the sound accompanies the virtual reality.
Ahora sí, volviendo al proyecto de-
Now, going back to the project,
Abajo queda hecha la
below at the right, we have to say yes to the virtual gallery,
y encontramos vínculos
and we find links with other artists, such as Diana Dominguez in relation to the arts, science, and technology, and Maurice Benayour and Ángela López Ruiz, past, memory, and future topics. By this, I give the floor to our classmate. She's going to make some comments about the work
Buenos
of
días
Ángela
y
López
bienvenidos al
Ruiz.
noticiero Últimas Noticias.
Welcome.
En el día
And
de
to
hoy
the
nos
news.
llega una noticia de
Today
último
we have
momento.
the
Ha sido
last minute
encontrado
news.
en una
We have
extenuante búsqueda
found
arqueológica
in a
una
deep,
serie de cintas de video. Lo novedoso de la
a
noticia
videotape,
es que al
and
tratar de
the new
reproducir
thing
lo
about
que
the news
parecían
is
grabaciones
that while trying
convencionales,
to
se
reproduce the new
descubrió que
thing,
están
which is
desestructuradas,
conventional,
no respetan un
it was
guión,
discovered
le
that it
faltan
was
partes. Grabando,
they
acción,
need
las cámaras están
they don't
listas,
have parts.
1, 2,
Do
3,
are the
probando,
cameras ready?
se
1,
escuchan
2,
por partes,
3.
mientras que el video
The
se
parts.
desenfoca y por momentos se enmudece. Personas caminando hacia atrás
There are
e
people
incluso
walking
escenas de
backwards,
objetos sin sonido,
or
ni
also there are
personas,
images
o
of
con sonidos
objects without
muy
any
extraños.
sounds or with very, very
Disculpas,
weird
parece que
sounds.
tenemos información de último
Apparently, we
momento.
have some breaking
Los
news
autores
right now.
encargados del
So the
hallazgo
authors in
nos
charge of these
informan que
findings
se
are letting
trata de
us
una
know
grabación de cine
that
experimental.
everything was just an
Incluso en este
experimental
momento se está
recording.
llevando a cabo
Right
un
now,
proyecto a cargo
they
de
are
la artista
implementing
visual
a
uruguaya
project by
Ángela
the
López Ruiz.
Uruguayan visual
En sus
artist
palabras,
Ángela López
estos
Ruiz. According to her,
archivos
these
incunnables,
files,
fragmentos o
these
copias
fragments
son
or
piezas
copies
importantes
are
para la
fundamental
formación de una
components
colección
of
que completa el
a
arco de la
collection
descripción de una
that
época
summarizes the
en la
description
cual
of a
la
specific time
narrativa del
in
cine
which
era muy
narrative
sexualizada.
of the cinema was different.
Tienen como propósito
The
interpelar la
purpose of all this is
categorización,
to
la
question the
normativa,
different
la
categories, the different
reglamentación que da
regulations,
nombre a las prácticas
all
artísticas
those
y
aspects that name the
cinematográficas
art
y los procesos
practices
por los cuales
are the
estas
processes through
categorizaciones
which
se
these
disuelven,
categories
marcando un nuevo
dissolved,
rumbo.
showing a
Estas
new
cintas
direction.
serán analizadas en el
These types
laboratorio de
will be
creación y cine
analyzed in the
experimental
creation
de la FAC
laboratory and
y una de las
experimental
metas del
cinema, and
proyecto
one of the
es
goals of
llevar
this
este tipo de
project
cine a
is to
las salas
take
de
this
arte,
kind of cinema
siendo este
to the
hallazgo
different
parte fundamental.
theaters.
Se trata de reflexionar,
This is about
disrumpir,
reflection,
cuestionar esto que hoy
disrupting,
llaman cine
questioning
experimental.
what we call
En este
today
camino
experimental
se
cinema.
cruzan
In
también los
this way,
estudios de la
we also
danza,
find
la
studies of
performance, las
dance,
narrativas del
performance,
arte hecha
different
por
art
artistas.
narratives
La
by different
idea es
artists.
hacer una
So the
especie de
idea
mapa de
is to
artículos
create
de
some kind of map
investigación
of
sobre
research
prácticas
articles and
artísticas
papers of
intersticiales,
different art
afirma
practices.
otro artista
This
involucrado
was
en el
stated by
proyecto
another artist
Intersticios
that
del
was
que
part
forma
of the
parte Ángela,
Interstitios
teniendo como
project.
fin el
Taking
rescate de
into one
películas
of the goals of
uruguayas.
this would be to
Hechas las
rescue Uruguayan
aclaraciones del
films.
caso,
After all
esperamos que
these
continúen
comments,
con
we
éxito
hope
en estos nuevos
that they
descubrimientos.
continue
Damos
being
paso a nuevas
successful
noticias de
in these
Randall
discoveries.
Packer
So
y
now let's
continuaremos
now find
mañana con
some
otras
other piece of
novedades.
news and see
Gracias.
you tomorrow. Thank you. Dale, vale.
Bueno, lo primero que queremos mencionar es que la página creada para mostrar el trabajo.
The first we want to mention that this page has a virtual format in relation to the aesthetic form that the artist used in his project. For the journey, please activate the audio to live a sensorial experience. The problems presented are the biography of the artist that was made in the Technological University. In the project, we explore and investigate collaborative experience in the arts of the new medias. His work from the conferential web and the narrative are part of the process. In order to get into the narrative, there is a brief journey in the history of the collective narrative where we want to find some examples and also to the production created by the students from communicative visual students that are created with different ideas for the project. There is a dialogue with the artist using as a tool this program. The videos are put one over the other one to create a visual effect and a connectivity effect. In this case, the idea that we want to give through the code is to present that the people involved in the dialogue are connected through this. The concept that was introduced by the.
The textual systems with different static identities, taxonomic identities, so they can apply a new vision of the process that includes the producer and also the audience. If we move to the end of the website, there's a space where you can experiment the creation of different narratives in order to get to know and to enhance the tool. What is represented by the website is a participatory network that is collectively created, and we can have a future vision of the arts, focusing on our role as educators, writers, and producers, and we become the work. This work is focused in the interaction of live technology and artists. By doing this, we can show what we wanted to show in this website, including the intention of the artist with the participatory and interactive art, also including the audience that now has become part of the work. So now there's a presentation on Graciela Tacchini. Something interesting about the project mentioned by Lucy is that there's a dialogue that takes place through the mobile phone, and then I think it's an interesting component to explore in the future. So there's a simulation of Lucy talking to Randall. She tells him some stories. She tells him about her research, about Shanken's theoretical texts. So there's a triggering element there for a younger audience, let's say, and that can be way as a playful activity to include. I wanted to comment on this because I think it was interesting and it was part of a exploration on how to relate all the theoretical aspects to the practical ones. Thank you very much. So Germán, you have the floor. And then something else that we didn't mention so far is that issue of interconnection between different websites and artists that took us to create this telematic brain idea. These ideas of neurons or nodes that interconnect. Okay, so now let's move on and let's go to Tacchini's presentation. I would like to highlight that after the introduction of the TV in the second half of the 20th century and then internet, the video became as a very exciting medium that allowed a group of artists to work on this. Among these artists, we found Graciela Tacchini. She has an innovative way of thinking and creating and reinvent herself through art and life. Those were key pillars of her training. And we can see that reflected on her work at the beginning of the 80s. And she was a pioneer of video art. Through her work, we can see a lot of self-reference. We have different stages, different personalities. She describes herself and her life, her work, her obsessions, her trauma, and she also looks inside herself. She can seduce you through her work and then generating questions about her work, and those questions ask about you. The idea of that there are no definite truth and the questions about what's happening between ones and zeros. Do we have a binary world or do we have a world full of gray areas? Then we have questions about technology, a different technology, a technology that is generally used to some code aspects. But here we have a different approach. It let us introduce us into a new emotional terminology. Germán, can you play the clip?
No hay vuelta atrás y un giro hacia adelante.
Así como el artista crea un proyecto llamado...
So the artist has a work that is called Legacy, that basically it's a versatile platform that is independent, constantly being developed, that basically invites us to investigate, to analyze their work in a way that is similar to what we try with different artists on this same website. Here we generate a space in which the audience can answer the question, what do you think? What are you thinking when you look at yourself in the mirror. So we invite the audience to visit the website, to look at the contents and leave their messages so that the future generations can have some input about this Denma project.
All right. I want to start by saying that my objective today was to get Maria Sherry's autograph. I don't think she's here, but well, maybe you can ask her. You can tell her that I want her autograph later. I'm going to try to talk from objectivity because I really admire this artist. So what she has done has transcended the arts and answer questions that I have posed to myself to think about education and art from a non-colonial perspective. Her works travel through languages, between languages and new media, and they tend towards something that she says herself, which is towards movement. Her works have a great social component. She's very observant and very empath, and she reflects on who we are and what we do, the memories we have, who we have been. So her discourse is to act, and this is reflected in her practices, in her artistic and educational practices. We took ideas from her educational practices, and we present the space from that. She, in a moment, she says that she has the idea, and then she shapes it. So we thought about shaping, about shapes in which we could work with our students. And I'm going to show you now how we did this. Good afternoon. What we did was to articulate a space, a web space, through HTML and CSS, and we did an interactive activity. This activity is called Opening the Black Box. What we try to do is to delve deeper in this interface and how to work with them. Germán, what he's showing there what we have done. We did this web page. We did it ourselves with coding. We think this is very valuable for others to come and edit it. So we have opened up possibilities so that anyone can change it. So as for it to be collective and not just made by ourselves. So come back to the web page. You can maybe do a little tour. Our idea is to generate a web page with different options towards the work of Maria Sherry, of course, and they take us towards several audiovisual elements that we have done ourselves and how we relate to her work. Action reaction, for example, you can click on that. And there we can see a different video, a little video that we did related with her work. A special work that we thought it was important to talk about. So the idea with this website is to explore extensively net art, examine multiple rooms in a gigantic castle, and we wanted to talk about this in one activity. And to maybe you can go back to the beginning, Germán, thank you. We think that art and education and technology have to be together, as Mariela always talks about. And so this page has educational resources. It's programmed in a very simple way so that it can be accessible for students to work with and for them to be able to examine and create their own interfaces or for I think it's important to include this in our curriculums and to work with programming and to delve into new ways of doing things.
Bien. Yo creo que con esto ya estaríamos cerrando
I think with this, we are closing with the Denma project presentation. Our intention was to not only present the artists and their productions, but also what Megan was just saying, to give students resources for them to be able to make this their own and to investigate and to formulate or reformulate research. So the information is there for everyone to take. This is part of the decolonizing turn that is proposing to decolonize art and education. And this tries to
Sí. Vamos a...
All right, we're going to... Germán, are you there?
Bueno, perdimos, creo que perdimos.
I think we lost Germán. Well, we try to get him to reconnect. Let's close this presentation so we can move on toward other aspects in the program. Now we give you the opportunity to have the privilege of hearing from the artists that are here. So most of them could connect to the conference, and a lot of them have sent their regards. Maybe we can have some comments or suggestions towards our students. They're open, our students are open towards criticism and towards being able to set a dialogue with the artists. So if you want, we can do it alphabetically or just spontaneously. If someone wants to speak, to say anything. Does anyone want to comment anything? Any artists? Go ahead, Vuk. You can activate the audio. Thank you.
Hi, hello. I'm sorry for being rude. I will have to go back to my revolution here in Slovenia. We are trying to take down the fascist government, and my colleagues are waiting for me with the demonstrations very shortly. So I want to just thank you very much for the fantastic honor of being practically in the classroom with the students. I just now reread what this student wrote about my stuff. Fine, very nice. I'm always, this is an amazing thing in our generation that we can not only do the work and also distribute it globally, but also live to see that it gets somehow accepted in the school system, and then also to be in the classroom. It's amazing. In a sense, this is relatively new historically, so it's fun. And speaking of fun, you know, dear students, be more aggressive and have more fun, because this is the last chance you got. So it's very nice that you were very polite to me and to my stuff in that little essay I just read, but don't be nice and don't try to be polite. Please be brutal, because that's the only way for you to keep your identity or to even have one. because everybody else is nice. So drop that. All right. These were my famous last words, or should I say words of wisdom. Otherwise, great stuff. I've seen some of the works I've seen 20 years ago or more. So it was very refreshing also. Thank you for that as well.
Gracias, Book. Así
Thank
que
you,
bueno,
Book. We need to practice other strategies, other critical and tough strategies. Thank you, Book. I don't know if anyone else, any other artists want to make a comment, or maybe you want to save it for the end. We can go on. Okay. So we're going to start now with the group of Maurice Bayun. So the group that was working with group of Juan Camejo, Lourdes Fajardo,
Verónica Romero, Enzo Rodríguez, los estoy viendo por ahí. No sé si
seeing you there. I don't know if you need me to activate any configuration for you.
Good morning, please, Delma, to me.
Listo, Juan.
Ready,
Adelante.
Juan. Go ahead. Hello, can you hear me? Can you see me?
Sí, Ignacio, ¿dónde estás?
Yes, Ignacio, where are you?
Sí, ya te vi.
Ignacio, I can see you. Well, what we are going to present today, Ignacio, I have to share screen, and now you go, Ignacio. Well, anyway, I can comment before you can show the video. After studying and know the work of Eneshun, we have known lots of concepts of the author ownership. It is a polyphacetic author which has enriched us and has opened new horizons in order to see and study the new media work. And we had made a short video as a resource. So if you have it there, Juan. Yes. Sorry, we are seeing the desktop, Juan desktop, but the videos are now open to share. Okay. Can you see that you can open it and select the file? Okay, I would like to share the digital. But before, as Ignacio was saying, we have worked with Maurice, which is a French artist, which is a pioneer in the art of the new medias. And he has started in 1980 his work doing interactive works, and he is characterized for including the public, the audience, into the work and to use the new media. As it says in his biography, when he was innovating in the world of art, in that context, it was still used, the acrylic, and he was really a pioneer in the new art and the new ways of creating art, and that is why we made a video compilating, putting together all the works, and we experimented with the Zoom using Zoom in this pandemic's time to produce and co-create using Zoom and the filters, a filter that we created with Maurice's face, and I am going to share the video that I am talking about. Please, Delma, can you tell me if you can see it? Yeah, it's perfect.
No está activado el audio, al menos no sale.
Sorry, the audio is not working. Can you see that when we share? Yeah. Sorry. ¿Me hablaste?
Inventé la serie CG entre
I invented the Series X when we were
cavé en realidad virtual un túnel bajo el Atlántico cuando estábamos
a
descubriendo.
tunnel under the Atlantic when we were discovering the triple W. I started the first virtual, well, virtual reality with artificial intelligence while we were painting the oil. I organized a safari photography to delete the prints of the resources. I created the first red exposition while the majority of us were disregarding the museums.
Fragancias
20 essence were made to put the art contemporary essence into bottles. I turned the emotions of the world into luxury products. I converted the triumph of art in a monument of peace. Shanghai in QR codes. QR. And the Hong Kong Tower, I turned it into a space, public, and university. I invited the New Yorkers to occupy the Wall Street walls. I compared the emotions of the citizens with the financial deficiencies. I turned into the human values in coins.
The human abstractions live in our minds. Human values like love, power, peace, knowledge are human abstractions. If creating art is to shape ideas, then we can show how human values can be shown through our minds. We can control the shape only by thinking about them. Interaction brain-computer makes it possible to create neurological design. This liquid shape that results is like thoughts in movement or thoughts in motion.
Bueno, eso fue parte de nuestro...
Okay, so that was part of our experiment. The idea was to, in the same way that he did in his work, he goes beyond those limits of the museum, creating works that go beyond the physical, also combining electronic devices. He highlights that interaction. So the idea was to create something using a tool like Zoom through this virtual world and co-creation. That was the idea behind our project. It would be interesting to highlight the fact that those filters that you use through Zoom were to recreate the place and the role of the artist, and at the same time generating a narrative and stories that would be transformed from the creative standpoint, so that you can make it playful for some people and also working on the contents by the artist. We always thought about this as to generate content and ideas that could be used as a learning teaching tool. This video was edited, but it was conceived as a live proposal, right? As a dynamic Zoom proposal, right? This was recorded, but in fact, it will take place live, right? Yeah, look, I have a filter. I can activate the filter. I can then share the link so you can use this filter. Okay, great. Thanks for that. Yeah, share that on the chat. And these filters were also designed for the different artists that you have been working with. So then we can share that repository of different filters, because we have a filter for each artist, right?
Y me falta cambiarme el nombre y ya me apropio.
Okay, yeah. The only thing I have to do is to change my name, and then I can steal his identity, you know? So that was what we were working on. I don't want whether you want to share that infography, that is material that is in Spanish. We would like to thank, because the students of translation courses work together with the visual communication students, and thanks to that, and also the theoretical result of the Congress that will be soon published, those students were working with this unpublished material, and thanks to that we could make all this possible in Spanish.
No sé si quieres comentar algo de esto, Juan.
Juan, would you like to comment on this? Yeah, the idea was to compile all the information by Maurice. So there's not a lot of information in Spanish. So the idea was to compile all that so that we can use that as teachers. So we can have high quality material to work with our students, so we can have all his concepts and all his theories that are so interesting, so we can combine everything, theory and works.
Bueno, y bueno, en realidad también estaba como anexo a este...
And then also presented as an annex to this PDF, we have some tutorials and where we explain how to do all the things that we have shown you via Zoom. Okay, great, Juan. That was also part of the working process, these shared works. So then we can leave this and make all this available to everyone interested, so they can continue improving this material. Anything else from this group? No, that's it. Maurice, would you like to make some comments, or we leave that for the last part, as you wish?
I can say a few words. Thank you very much, Juan, Veronica, and Nacho. for your work, which is very nice to have put that together. I totally understand Vuk's position, saying that you will build yourself by at the same time identifying what interests you, and also sometimes say, okay, I like the work by this guy, but this, I'm not totally convinced by that. And this is something you can do, but not necessarily in this situation, because I guess this was not exactly what Delma asked for. And I guess also that when you choose artists, you don't really want to say negative things about them. But I think it's important because you mentioned the dump, and the dump is about the project that I haven't done. And I think it's very important when you're an artist to say, okay, I could do that. Oh, I have this idea. Oh, this is not bad, and so on. But you don't do it because you decide maybe it's not enough. It's not exactly what you want to do. And so excluding some things, it's a gesture of creation that may become maybe really meaningful. And at the same time, when I did that, every project used to come from things I have seen, movies I've seen, I have been watching, or books I read, or discussion I had with people. And this also is important because sometimes it was to say, oh, I could do this project because I don't like this work. Or it's not I don't like, but I'm not totally convinced with that. And so I would propose something else. But at the same time, I won't do it. So I put it in my dump. So that was the idea behind that. So yeah, sure, you should definitely build your own personal strategies in the fact to identify what is good for you. You consider this may be helpful and just use something similar or do something inspired by, and so on. Why not? And at other time, it's very important to just say yes, but even if I accept I'm interested in the work of this artist, I don't really like that. And the comparison is a good fight. I mean, for you first. It's a good fight because it helps you to identify things not only because they belong to history in a way, but also because you have a feeling that it may serve you, it may help you in the future. And this is the best thing we can do. This is something that could inspire people or could just keep in mind. And so thank you for what you have done. I think it's a very good job. I got probably only 70% of it. I have to refresh my my Spanish, but you know, it's not totally difficult. It's not totally impossible for French-speaking people to understand a big part of it. So yes, I will try Duolingo Spanish soon, in order just to be on the same page.
Gracias, Maurice, por tus palabras.
Thank you, Maurice, for your words, for your indications. These are initial works, and it is expected that to be for them to continue to work. So the indications are good. So I think we need to keep working and polishing the selection and the distinction between what is important, and that's also part of the work of the teacher. So now we move on to the next group. I want to let you know that you have the buttons for language. You can select Spanish or English. We're having a simultaneous interpretation in this moment. So now we move on to the net art group. Are you there? Yeah, good morning. Thank you, Fabiana. I was going to share a screen.
Listo, configuradas. Adelante.
Ready? Go ahead.
Claudia.
Voy. Ahí está.
Bueno, sin duda ya todos han escuchado.
So definitely you have heard talk about net art movement. So maybe sometimes you needed to search for information on new media artists. We had some trouble with this. So this is why we wanted to pay attention to this investigation process. And seeing as it is a collaborative art, because the spectator is involved, we wanted to use an according interface for this. So because of this, we decided to do this on the Miro app. It's a collaborative platform, and it also let us do a design that looks like Nemosine Atlas that we studied. And it's interesting for us to move on in this line of work. When it comes to the net art artists, we focused on video art as a source. We thought it was interesting for us to start our investigation from the passage between analogous and digital art in audio, photography, and video, but focusing on video art as a source, because this includes image and sound. In the app that we're going to show you, you're going to see information and tools that can be useful for you when using new technologies in the classroom. So without further ado, we're going to invite you to do a tour through this interactive board, and we encourage you to enrich it, because our proposal is thought for all the artistic and educational community, and the idea is to enrich it and to be able to move it further with everyone's input. Now I'm going to give way to Claudia to show the platform. Good morning. As Fabiana said, we set this interactive platform, taking as a reference the collaboration and the co-creation between artists that we have been studying, and focusing basically on net art as a principle. We chose this platform, like I said, because it's interactive and we can upload elements, design. The base design was created based on Andy Warhol's work, as Fabiana said, and the idea is to collect information, keywords, images, audiovisual elements, interaction between the digital and the analogous and the processes that we have been creating. So from this, we differentiate in colors, net art in the beginning, performance, and several artists that we work with performance art, video art. So we try to set information on the movement, its main artists, and take information about them from interviews that we thought were appropriate. For example, in performance, we have a space of information on this, videos that are referential. The good thing about this platform is that we can transport content. We can put it here, links of web pages that they have, the artists. What we did mainly was we took all artists that we have been working with and studying, We place them here as a first approach. We work with Roy Ascott as well, with Alcides Martínez Portillo, Bukosik. We also reference his biography, his works. We collected information on him. We also worked with Brian, again, our Uruguayan artist, with Daito Manabe, a Japanese artist. So this interface allows us to show our data recompilation. We also work with photography in this analogous to digital passage with Rogelio Osorio. We could generate an interaction and we could interview him. We are going to briefly upload it to a platform, but it's a work in progress still. Sorry, it's interesting to mention, for you to mention, the approach that the three interviews have. So this passage that you were talking about. What we said, basically, we worked with net art, then we based in the passage between the analogous and the digital to work with this analogous in a digital way. Photography, we based, maybe Isa can talk about photography best. So we were based on this interview and talking about how the artist passed, how the artist started working with the photography cameras that we used years before, how the artist changed and what benefits the artist could reap from the digital and what we gain and what we lose in this passage. Yeah, precisely from the enjoyment perspective, when we think about this passage between analogous to digital, it's we link it to our own experiences. We were witnesses of that change. So this is why we interviewed Rogelio Osorio. He's a visual artist. He's been doing expositions since 1982 in several countries, and he plays with technology, with the analogous and the digital, as a medium to create. So in this passage from analogous to digital, we also questioned what is going to happen in a future. Whoever edits this work, what are they going to do? Are they going to communicate with us? What's going to happen with the production as an organism, as a living organism, like Roy Ascott says? So on the contrary, this organism, will it be independent from us, or will it follow its own path? So we have these doubts questions as to how this creation will continue living. This organism we're presenting today.
Yeah, we also want to highlight.
We also want to say that within this collaborative project,
we have the participation
of our classmates that worked with this passage between the analogous and the digital, basing
in terms
the
of
sound.
A sound. If Robert is there and if he wants to talk.
Buenas tardes, o bueno, buen día, depende el uso horario,
Good
¿no?
morning, it depends where you are.
Bueno, lo que respecta a la parte del trabajo que realicé y que podemos ver aquí en la parte
and that
de
you
azul,
can see here in blue, in the blue part.
es la parte de nuestro circuito
It is
interactivo
the
que está
interactive
dedicada a
circuit
la
that is
revolución
dedicated
tecnológica,
to the
específicamente en el área del
technological
audio,
revolution, especially on the audio
que
part,
tanto se entrelaza con las
that it
experiencias
is
visuales,
exchanged with the visual experiences,
teniendo cada vez más a
having
envolver todos nuestros sentidos.
involving more our senses.
En esta sección
And in this section,
tenemos datos concretos
we
del audio
have
analógico.
specific details
Podemos
of
percibir
the
de primera
analogic
mano algunos de los
audio,
adelantos
and
que
we can
hicieron
see at first
que hoy
hand some of
disfrutáramos de
the
las
things that we
experiencias
may
en el mundo del
enjoy,
audio
the
digital
experiences that we
y
may
que
enjoy
contribuyen
in the
singularmente a las
audio
experiencias
world,
audiovisuales.
and that it gives us an audio
Veremos los
experience.
cambios
We are
técnicos,
going to
ejemplos de
see the
aplicaciones en áreas
technical
de trabajo,
changes
desde
and
las
to
cintas
apply them
magnéticas, vinilos, cassette,
from
hasta
the
nuestros datos
vinilos,
circulando por la net a
and
velocidades
our
impensadas.
details, our information circulating all
No
over the
solamente
net
por todo el globo, sino que
at
más
an
allá,
unlimited speed.
dándonos posibilidades
It
absolutamente
gives us
inauditas
possibilities
dentro del net art.
that in the net art, possibilities that we cannot
También
imagine.
tendremos información
We
brindada por
also
el
have
docente
information
universitario,
given
músico
by
y
the
sonidista Pablo
university
Notaro,
teacher,
quien nos muestra
sonidist,
de forma muy amena,
that he
a la
shows
vez que profunda, parte de su percepción sobre la
deeply his
información
perception
y
about
herramientas en el
the
campo del audio
information in the
para usar las nuevas
field
tecnologías en ámbito de aprendizaje.
audio, to use them in the
Aquí, como
teaching
vemos
field. Here, as you can
en
see,
esta parte
in this
del
part
circuito,
of the circuit,
ejemplos sobre
it is an
aspectos
example
que van avanzando
in different
y podemos
aspects
visualizar
that
datos
are
emblemáticos interesantes a
developing,
lo
and
largo
we
del
can
tiempo,
see
además de
different
aspectos de la
emblematic
estética, el
details
sonido.
all along the time, depending on
Y
the
para mí, por lo
aesthetic,
menos como
sound,
frutilla de la
and
torta,
from my point of view, the best part
podemos
is
escuchar
that
al
we
especialista en
can
esta
listen
materia
to
sobre la
the professional
democratización en
in this
esta área
field, in
y
the
un aspecto
democratization of this
paradójico
area, and in
que
a
si de
paradox
verdad a alguien le
aspect that
interesa
if
el
anybody is
universo del sonido,
interested in the
no
audio
lo puede dejar
universe,
de apreciar,
you
ya que
cannot
sin dudas
stop
me
watching it.
parece que toda la
You have-
interfaz
because I think all
y
the
esta parte
interface,
también es
and
un excelente
especially
punto de
this part,
partida e
it's
insumo
an excellent
para
point
continuar
of
investigando,
beginning
aprendiendo
to
y compartiendo.
learn, share. As a closure of our work, we thought that this idea was created to generate an exchange and collaboration of information with all our classmates and artists, that as a dialogue among us, and we have a quick manage of the information and the things that we want to share and we want to do, the things that we want to do. We did a research work, the new art media, starting from the analogic to the media. It is this work is done by our classmates, and we want to share that the collaborations, we did the collaborations including the names, so as it is stated that all the people that collaborated, that it was very important that is going to continue having this aesthetic, and it is necessary, this change, this mutation, so as it is important for this digital media work. At a time, we are going to stop being analogic, which is the last thing, which is the latest thing in this creation. As a closure, we want to set the question: what would happen afterwards? Thank you, Claudia. Also, what will we have to construct? So the advice that book gave about the critics, and to include not also the kind and expletive, but also to include the more revolutionary aspects. Thank you very much, NetArt Group. So, for the special of including the sound in the visual arts and in NetArts, and that is a very good input, a very nice input. Something else, Claudia? In my case, it's all. It is very important what you said, to take the critics, because it's part of our growth, the artist's growth, of the growth of our work that we are going to make. Thank you, Claudia. It is very interesting to go back to situate the audience, those who are on the room, in the Zoom room, looking in streaming, that the students are learning to be teachers, to be future teachers. So the diffusion, it is what they share, it's on educational institution, secondary, primary, formal and informal places. So the audience, it's these students, and the students are thinking and trying to generate a bond between art, technology and education. So let's follow with the other group, Art, Action and Telematic group, or is there any group for its individual productions? Go ahead, Lucia. Can I share, please? There you go.
¿Cuál es la pantalla? Ya enseguida, un segundito.
Wait a minute, please.
No hay problema. Podemos también comentar.
No problem. We can also say that all these research and investigations of the project was the students asked it because they understood that in their curriculum there was not a good part of, because this period was influenced by the Congress of new media, and above all because of the pandemic time. On the second part of the year, we worked all the theory towards a productive production, and from that we created this presentations.
Matías, dame un segundo que vamos nosotros.
Ah, perdón.
Igual ya te configuro, Matías, ya quedas configurado.
Dale, gracias.
Delma, si podés habilitarme a mí a ver si yo lo puedo
Can you please allow me to share? So Lu, don't worry, I'll give it a try.
Ok, Marcos. Lista, Karen.
Perfecto. Ahí se ve.
So can you see that? Can you see my screen? So this is a project that we implemented together with Lucia and Marcos. Basically, this work is on the work of Takini and Shedegi. I don't know why it's taking so long. Maybe you can tell us about your project and we wait for that to load. This video that we wanted to show you was a way to show you our work, but I can tell you about it. In a way, the video would complement my words. So maybe you can stop sharing and just move on. Well, as you know, this 2020 had a very special beginning, right? Especially for education. In our case, we had classes, online classes, and basically that took us closer to technology, regardless of how much we knew about it, right? So there were different working proposals by the teachers. We wanted to continue working in groups, and the kind of strategies we use in face-to-face classes. So we develop our own strategies to make all this methodology possible. This allowed us to fulfill the educational objectives and also help us to develop our relationship with other people. Thanks to video art and its creative process, we managed to realize that what we needed, in fact, was a face-to-face meeting. This was very useful for the creation of video art, but also to reflect on the kind of relationship that we have among us. This was because that was the first time that we could see each other face to face, but it felt as if we were old friends, you know? What you can see right now, it's a summary of the whole creative process and some of the scenes of the video art that we created. That video art was called Takisheregueando, that is basically based on the analysis of the special features of Takini and Sheregi. There are different sequences, and we got inspired in Sublime Banal, a work by Graciela Takini. And throughout the presentation, we add different features of these artists, and these are related to real situations so that we can show as children playing. Our idea was to have a video art as a trigger for teachers to work on the different contents of the subject, visual communication, together with the new media art, and presenting the work of these two pioneers. Together with this presentation, we had a guide for the teachers and future teachers that basically suggest ways to go deeper in these concepts. And this can be related to the clip and also to keywords that can be found in the different works of the artist. We can have different work proposals, and we added some links with extra information about the artist, their works, and elements that can be used in the classroom. These links have a short description to provide context to the ideas so that you know where you're going. And now in the chat, through the chat, we're going to be sharing a link for you to have a look at the clip that we prepared with my classmates. You will also find the guide for teachers, the guide that we designed for the teachers that will be uploaded to the cloud. You're free to share that. And the idea is to make an open source platform and for this to be used by anyone. So you're invited to visit the website, check on the clip, and share the materials. Thank you, Lucia. Thank you, Marcos and Karen. Remember that once the course is over, we are going to have a compilation of all the materials to be shared both on the Korea platform, that is a platform you are familiar with, and also on some other educational platforms so that everyone can share this material. Edward Shanken, that is one of the artists that was quoted by you in the theoretical component, is also sending information for you and for us, for all of us. So we would like to thank him for attending today. Lou, are you ready then? I mean, is that it? Perfect. Thank you for your contributions. And now, if we don't have another group, we have arts action and telematic action.
So this group has raised to the challenge of doing something live here. You know that live performances have risks. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of knowledge. It implies a lot of knowledge of technology. And we don't always have the conditions specifically because of the pandemic. So congratulations go to them because they have risen to the challenge. There has been collaboration also with other groups that have supported this group so that they could do this performance live. So thank you to everyone that have acted as support. Enzo, or is anyone going to comment on this? So while the group gets ready, I'm just going to make a quick reference. This is a group from the image theory. In these groups, we work specifically with video art and experimental cinema and telematic art and interaction. So students selected artists that they consider to be more involved with this themes. Within this selection, the artists that they selected for this fictions, because what they're going to do is a fiction, they're going to tell us a bit about it now. It's original. There have been, they're going to show relationships between artists that don't exist in real life. I'm going to give you a brief introduction. Nice to meet you all and to share with you all our work. Thank you to all artists that could be here today.
Generar como estas interacciones entre los artistas que no sabíamos si se
an idea to generate interaction between artists that we really don't know if happened or not. And after a long process of selection and to see what format we could fit together and what could be useful for us, this performance resulted from our research, and this motivated us, and we hope it motivates you as well, and we hope that you enjoy it. Please, we can begin now. Before we start, we want to show several words that have appeared, like break the law, or a norm. Question is to doubt what has been accepted. Interact is to do an action between two or more people reciprocally. Novelty is something that is new, that didn't exist before, that was not used or known before. These words did not just come up by themselves. They're connected. we thought about them telematically. These artists have transformed a tool of work as a telecommunication to create art. So we are going to invite said artists to tell us about themselves.
Bueno, por acá, Graciela Taquini.
Well, Graciela Taquini here. I introduce myself. Ángela López here.
Bueno, estamos ante la presencia de Diana Domínguez.
In the presence of Diana Domínguez, teacher, investigator, and artist from Brazil. Diana centers her interest in fine arts, and in her work, she explores the interaction between audience and the artistic work. So Diana, how do you involve art and new technology, new media? We can consider it as a single individual, can't, because it's collective, it's powerful, and it can only be enjoyed if it reaches everyone. This interaction, this dialogue between body and technology allows us to contribute towards the artist in an amplification of the conscience and the perception of the world, and it puts the spectator as a decisive being in the process of the art. The artists have this to transmit content without changing its conception. The audiences are not born, they're different. In the digital, we have capacity of getting near to them. And what function does the art have in these processes? It flexibilizes the offer, and we enjoy information we selected, and we interact between ourselves. The visitors can understand the work better because they can organize how we approach the communication. Art is in the streets now. It's valued, and it wants creativity. The artist loses autonomy because of the electronic media and the velocity of change. Technology makes it important for us to understand the relationship between how we enjoy art through technology, and we observe a much more creative approach towards everything. Everything lives together in the new media, and everything interacts. Artists work with images and they change it to multimedia medium, so the new generations are used to navigating between the different ways of doing things. Globalization is ending, and it's necessary for us to build a museum to document our artistic patrimony. Art needs to be emancipated, but at the same time needs to be together with technology. It should be a symbolic space. Thank you, Diana.
Hola Graciela, ¿cómo estás?
Hello, Graciela, how are you? Pleasure to present the artist, Graciela Taquini. In her vast work, we can see that it's most production, and it has baptized as the aunt of the Argentinian art. Much of its art has made an impact on the public, which is the most important thing on it. First of all, it is a pleasure, Diana. When I made this work on San Martin Theater, the video set many questions. How the artist positioned it regarding the format. Roles was my first experimental video. To be able to use my body as a first step the synchrony between the image and the sound to show the different roles and people that have developed during my life, the voices that goes from good things, the self-portrait, the experimentation, were the main factors that it is inspiring to produce art on this format, and today it is discovered by many. What happens with the public and the work? The work looks to break the difference with the spectators and to introduce them into the history, put something into their memory, to invite them to receive a message. I like it, I don't like it, I find it funny, but the main thing is to get the other involved. To close it, it is a work that has never left someone indifferent. What is your point of view? I was invited by the artist. I painted that phrase. What is between ones and zeros? An intervention that mixtures the abandoned, the deteriorated, with an element that is present as the digital language. To play with this idea is to live into the dichotomy of living into the present and the past, and let's see what happened in the future. And it places the spectator into a question. The aunt of the video art was given to the name due to that. Now, Graciela, that's me, I want to invite Randall. Randall, are you there?
Randall.
Randall?
Randall, danos una señal.
Randall, can you give us a sign?
Se está preparando Randall, nos están avisando.
Randall is getting ready. He has connection problems.
I'm ready.
I'm ready. Randall, how are you? Well, I would like to present Randall Packard, an artist, composer, and telematic teacher that has worked in the intersection between electronic music, interactive media, live presentation, and art web. He's a critic, politician. He has made exposures in theater. He's a writer, co-director, and he has a PhD in music. Randall, how do you conceive, how do you think it is the third space? The third space represents the second space. The third space could be inhabited by the remote people, simultaneously, asynchronically, and it's necessary a creative media that integrates the local and the remote. In 2002, they published with Kate Schonder to Wagner to virtual reality, the Wagner a la realidad virtual, a book with a profound analysis of the multimedia history. Yes, it's true. This is a non-tell story of the revolutionary multimedia story. It shows that all was born between a collaboration into the arts and the science. In her operas, Wagner tries to mixture all the expressive forms. It reflects how all the technologies, how the new technology are present in literature, music, dance, the theater, adding an international exchange, considering one of your last works, pandemic in last work. Is there any parallel between the meaning of the significance of COVID-19 and pandemic encounter reflects a collective answer to our social behavior that we have set in our homes, and we communicate through chats and videos. It is an answer to a world pandemic that has changed our human conditions, and the new medias are playing a fundamental part. Regarding your last creations that are connected to this new reality that is the pandemic, how would you define them? COVID-19 Chronicles can be named also as encounters with the cruel reality. Thank you very much, Randall. No, thank you. Now it's my turn to present the artist, Ángela López. Ángela, can you tell us more about you? Well, I am an artist, curator in research, and Uruguayan. I have a bachelor in the University of Republic. I am a director of the contemporary art, where I develop my investigator project. Can you tell us what is your research about? Yeah, image archaeology is about the field memory of Uruguay. During the fires on the 70 decade, the files were extinguished almost totally. But we achieved to refound this place. This filmotech.
El proyecto consta de dos etapas. En la primera se restauran los films experimentales uruguayos que fueron exhibidos y galardonados. Y luego se mapea y contextualiza la
Then we contextualize the production within the artistic current. In the second stage, we analyze and recuperate objects that we found. I want to say about your, I want you to talk about your work, Pioneers of Art in Action. It's a project that wants to change the stage of the 70s in Uruguay from archives of women that have been part of it. I also invite you to reflect on the problematics of gender, and I compiled what women have been done in history and that have been made invisible by patriarchy. We have seen things of cinema, performances and happenings, photographies, choreographies, letters, amongst other things. You mentioned that the project was born from testimonies of women. Who? For example, Teresa Trujillo, a visual artist and dancer and choreographer. In her art, she searches to break away from classical ballet, and this freedom allowed her to improvise, to create, to exchange with the object and the subject. Graciela Figueroa, dancer and choreographer and therapist. She studies dance and everything that has to do with the body. She directs and investigates elasticity and the development in how she does her shows, and she integrates dance and martial arts. And lastly, Isabel Gilbert, an intellectual that is dedicated to literary criticism and scenic arts. She was a photographer as well, and she worked with Pereda in some cinematographic works. Her photographic work promotes a nostalgic and sentimental view of our country. Thank you, Ángela. Thank you for allowing us to know a bit more about your work. Thank you.
todos estos artistas abrieron un nuevo camino hacia un arte aún
All
no
these artists made a new whole path to this kind of art, expanding the horizons of this media, working on education, allowing anyone interested to participate in this new experience never imagined before. They took us closer to the different things. They made us question and go beyond what is established thanks to their work. That's why we believe that media art is here to stay. It is clear that from bad things we can always get positive things. Something positive that we can get from COVID is that it made us go through a virtual space to make our courses possible. IT was considered only a simple tool that can be used in the personal sphere. Suddenly, it became a new meeting point for our work and processes. So this virtual classroom was evidence of this. So the feelings developed in this new atmosphere was 100% real. New media art took us to a new area. It changed our perspective when it comes to teaching, and it made us discover a whole new world of possibilities. This group that has to do with theory of image, we went through a very interesting process, and we wanted just to share that. Thank you.
Muchas gracias al grupo de arte Acción Telemática.
Thank you to the group and Telematic Action. That was a playful way of playing with the different characters. So thank you very much for doing this live and making this presenting these conversations between the artists. So now let's open the possibility for comments by the artists. Edward Shanken wanted to also provide some feedback that can be useful for you. So let's open the possibilities, or let's allow the artists to ask questions or to make comments about the performances so far. As from Roy Ascott to Jeregi, I mean, including the whole alphabet from A to Y. So maybe you can make some comments about that. I'm gonna, Edward, you have the floor. So give me a second, Edward, before we do that, because we have to switch the interpreter. We have to switch the language channel. So give me a second. I'm going to change that so we can have your interpretation.
Thank you, Delma. Do you hear me? Do you hear my sound? Great. Okay, thank you. I'm really happy to be here, and thank you, Delma, for the invitation to join you all. It's wonderful to see many of your students again and to see some old friends in the audience, including Roy and Diana and Monica and Wolfgang, and really delighted to be here. I wanted to respond to the NetArt history work, which really impressed me, and maybe partly as an art historian, I found a real sympathy with that sort of project and saw some relationships to some of the things that I'm currently doing. And I wanted to say that I'm very glad that this group elected to do first the fundamental research and the sort of 2D mapping design first, and then consider doing an online implementation subsequently. I've seen all too often that students try to take on too much, and I think it would have been too much to do that research, and that sort of conceptual design and the online implementation all at the same time. And if I've seen students try to do too much and they end up not doing anything very well. So I think you did a really good job on your research and creating that 2D diagram. And I really enjoyed the sort of the color relationships and the spatial relationships. It made history sort of come alive and not be so flat, but to have this spaciousness. And I'd really love to see how you figure out how to implement that in an online context, which would also create all sorts of opportunities for expansion. If it can be an open structure, it can be added to, it can be sort of networked, it can be open to others adding elements to it. So I was thinking about this in relationship to the online companion that I've created for my book, Art and Electronic Media, and the Spanish language book, Inventar el Futuro, which enables people to add things to it and contribute to this dialogue of art and art history. So I really appreciated the possibilities of your work and made me think, gosh, my approach is so flat. It could be so much more interesting. It could be so much more dimensional. It could be so much more visual and dynamic and diagrammatic. And I use the word diagram intentionally because looking at sort of the relationships that you created visually reminded me of some of Roy Ascott's early work, which has obviously influenced me greatly. And his earlier works from the early 60s that were in an exhibition called Diagram Boxes and Analog Structures at the Moulton Gallery in 1962. And there's sort of, in the exhibition catalog, it's like a meta diagram where he diagrams the ideas that are in the diagrammatic artworks. So yeah, I was just thinking about that and making those connections and seeing Roy's work in that diagrammatic context just sort of unfolded a chain of associations. I really appreciated your accomplishment and wanted to share my comments with you. Thank you.
Gracias, Edward. Voy a hacer el cambio. No sé si algún otro artista quiere hacer algún comentario. Así mantenemos el canal en inglés. I don't know if some artists here connected want to talk or comment.
I would be very interested to hear more about the ideas that you've discussed about how you would transform this into a telematic project, an online history.
Ok, volvemos a cambiar la interpretación, así le damos paso a los estudiantes. Si me permiten un segundito. Bien, ahora...
Okay, so now we have changed the language channel so we can give the floor to the students. I think it was very interesting what you said. At the same time, this helps the students to face the future, ideas for the future, although it is a proposal for the course. Of course, for each of these courses, it is also true that all the students are considering this a long-term project so that they can, in the future, that is to say next year, they can continue and make all this even better. So I would like to know what the students' opinion, so that they can tell us what they think about these comments by Shanken and what they think about the future of having this huge telematic network project. Something that Shanken mentioned about that relationship with Roy Ascott. even though we had a special area for Roy Ascot in the Denmark project, we believe that he is present in almost all the students' work, because what they're showing right now is just a short production. There are several elements of the process where the legacy by Roy Ascot is clearly present in almost all of them, both in their individual work and also in their group work. So I found that very interesting, what the connection Shanken mentioned, because his presence is almost in all the works by the students. So students, you have the floor. Any comments that you may have, ideas you want to share in the same way that Shanken says. So Alessandro. So Alessandro wants to show Roy's filter with an interview. I think Roy, you were somewhere there. So Alessandro now will have the floor so that they can present Roy's filter, that is also part of a group of interviews and actions. And then just think about Junkin's question, and then we can share. Okay, do you agree? So you have some minutes to think about this. Alessandro, are you there? I think you're a co-host.
Creo que sí. Vamos a...
Después de Alessandro va Nati con la parte...
After Alessandro, we have Nati.
Bien. Con Matías hicimos como un...
Together with Matías, we had like an exchange. I'm gonna play Roy. It's very short, but it's a way of showing you what we've done.
Bueno, comenzamos.
Okay, shall we?
Buenos días, Roy. Primero que nada, te quiero agradecer.
Good morning, Roy. First of all, I would like to thank you for being here, for your time, so that we can have this interview. As I know, it was your birthday, right? So let me wish you a happy birthday. Okay. First of all, thank you very much. You are right. It was my birthday some days ago. I turned 86. So now thank you for having me. When we talk about your experience, can you tell us about your work? Of course. It has to do with cybernetics and telematics. I started working in the 1960s. I have worked on art, technology, and consciousness. I've seen that you are very active in the social media. Tell us a little bit about that. Yeah, I use Facebook and Twitter. I think they are very powerful tools, that allows us to communicate and share our work. Regarding your theoretical work, you present art as an organism. What do you mean by that? For me, art is a way of change in society. My role as a teacher is to consider art as a thing. That and telematic communication, that is being both at the same time, everywhere and nowhere. We have the physical components of institutions, culture, and learning as an invisible part. And that allows us to expand and find new opportunities for the mind and new interactions in reality. I have also seen many of your work, syncretic. What really caught my attention, la plusieurs du texte. What is that about? It's based on an international project that was interactive, that took place in 11 countries, and one of them was Australia, Canada, the States. and we had ASCII code. As you can see here in the background, that sign was generated by ASCII characters. Well, thank you very much for the interview and for being with us today. Okay, now thank you.
Gracias, Alessandro. Gracias, Matías. Le volvemos a dar feliz cumpleaños a
Thank
Roy.
you. Okay, let's wish Roy happy birthday once again. Thanks for that. So now we can say that we are celebrating Roy's birthday. So this will be your birthday party, Roy. Thank you, Roy, for joining us today. I didn't tell anything. I didn't tell them about your birthday. So apparently it was part of their research.
Pasamos ahora a Nati, que está ahí. ¿Queda algún otro grupo sin presentar? Así ya podemos dar al
Have we finished with all the works?
Con la propuesta
Buenas tardes, Delma.
Hello, Delma.
¿Quién comparte?
Yo soy el encargado de compartir pantalla.
I'm in charge of sharing screen, okay?
Ya estás configurado. Adelante.
Bien.
Okay, so ready.
Dame un segundito. Ahí. Bien. Buen mediodía al sur del mundo, and good afternoon everyone. Estamos aquí porque nos apasiona nuestra profesión, el ser docentes.
Being
¿Se
teachers.
ve?
No. Se está viendo el miro de Tacchini.
Se está viendo,
sí, está perfecto.
Adelante. Arrancá con tu...
Bien. Les decía que estábamos aquí porque nos
As I
apasiona
told you,
nuestra profesión,
we are here
el ser
because we're
docentes,
passionate about
y
our
porque Graciela Tacchini
profession,
nos
being
impactó
teachers,
con su
and
potente
because
obra.
Tacchini, we were surprised by Tacchini's work, so powerful. The video art in Argentine allows us to see her performance. As an artist, we can go through her work, we can see how technology advanced, we are immersed in the audiovisual narrative. It's a self-reference work, and she's a very generous
Siempre
being.
grata, enfocada
She's
en qué
always
le puede
nice,
dar al
always
otro,
focused on what
creadora
to
desde lo
give
colectivo,
the others.
tan relacional,
She's the creator of the
generó en
collective work.
nosotros y
She
seguramente lo
generated
harán
on us.
ustedes un impacto sin igual.
She had
Les invitamos
an
a todos a
unprecedented
ver
impact on
e
us.
interpretar el
So
mundo
we
de la
invite you
visualidad
all to
a través del
interpret
lenguaje
the
de
world
Graciela
through the
Tacchini.
language of Graciela Tacchini. Getting to know your own self, that is part of the pillars of our proposal. So the aim of this is when you interact with this material, you can navigate
El
freely.
espectador arma su recorrido
The audience creates
encontrándose
its
al
own
final o
path,
no con una serie de preguntas que lo
finding
interpelarán,
different
como lo
questions
hace la obra de Graciela,
that
haciéndole transitar
we'll try to find out more about
indefectiblemente
him,
entre el
as Graciela's work
autoconocimiento y la
does.
alteridad para seguir creando y
So you
creyendo
can
en que el
continue
arte
creating and
como que es un
believing that
elemento
the art is
transformador.
an element that can transform. We are Nati Correa,
Y Nati
Maximucio,
Rodó,
and Nati Rodó,
estudiantes de cuarto año del
students of
profesorado de
fourth
comunicación
year
visual,
of
queremos
visual
compartir este
communication
material
courses,
con
and we
ustedes.
wanted to share these materials with you. We know this will be useful for your classes and will also be inspiring so that you can generate new content and that this proposal keeps growing to infinity.
Bien, y les queremos mostrar lo que es la
And we want
interfaz
to show you the
usuario
interface,
Tacchini,
user
¿sí?
Tacchini,
Dentro de lo que es la plataforma Miro.
within
Es una
the Miro
plataforma
platform.
que
This
una
is
vez
a platform
se llega al contacto con nosotros, puede
that
ser
once
colaborativa, se puede editar.
you get to us, it can be
Es para eso mismo, para que esto
collaboratively
siga creciendo. Y nosotros nos enfocamos
built
en ver lo que creó ella, lo que creó en su cabeza con el videoarte,
So we can
hicimos
see
una
her
selección,
video art here, and we made a
¿sí?, de 10
selection
videos
of 10
en el
clips.
que, si ustedes se fijan aquí, tienen una explosión
If you
que
pay
los va a
attention, here
transportar,
there's kind of
es
an
un
explosion
enlace,
that
los
will take
transporta
you, this
a
is a
lo
link
que es
that will take
un sitio
you
web
to
en
a
donde vamos a encontrar
website
un librillo,
in which you will
ahí
find a
si se
booklet.
llega a ver. ¿Se está viendo el librillo?
Sí, sí.
Bien. Que hay una presentación sobre el artista,
And
una
basically
breve
you have a
referencia hacia
presentation of
ella,
the
y
artist,
después
some data
palabras
about her,
que nos generaron
and then some
el
words.
visualizar cada uno de los videos, y lo fuimos anotando.
Words that
¿Sí?
were
Son
the result of
disparadores
watching each of
en
the
cada
clips.
uno
They
de sus
function as
videos: la
triggers.
bola roles, granada, ¿sí?, cadáveres, rota, y así
These are the name of the
sucesivamente,
different works by
en
Tacchini.
donde cada uno de esos videos nos dio a nosotros
So each clip
un
generated this
disparador,
group
como
of
les decía.
words.
En el Miro es libre, es de libre
This
tránsito, uno
platform,
puede entrar
Miro,
cuando quiere,
it's a
¿sí?,
free
puede
platform.
salir cuando lo desea,
You
pero
can visit
tratamos de
it whenever
generarle,
you
como
want.
en la vieja escuela de videoarte, un recorrido, ¿sí?, que
But we
va
wanted to
haciendo
generate
todo alrededor de
some
su
kind of
cara,
path
además
that
de
you
los
could
videos,
follow, as you can see
¿sí?, que
around
son
her
cada una
face.
de estas
So
explosiones,
apart from the
donde
clips,
los
you
dos
can
que están
follow the
abajo
arrows, and there's a
nos
path
transportan
that
a la
you can follow.
biografía oficial de ella, de
So
su sitio
here you
web,
have the
y
biography
en
on
el
the
de la
website,
derecha, en abajo a la
and on the
derecha,
one on the
nos
right,
transporta
bottom
a
right,
la
that will
historia
take us
desde los 60 en
to
adelante del
the history
videoarte.
from 60
Esto que, como
onwards
decían los
of video
compañeros
art.
antes, ella es la tía del videoarte en
As my
Argentina,
classmates were saying,
¿sí?
she's
Ella se
considered the aunt
autodefine como una
of
artista
video art
barroca
in
también.
Argentina, and
Y
she's also
después en la
defined as a
derecha
baroque
también nos
artist.
tira
And then to the
al
right, we have
enlace,
another explosion that will show a link.
que es la parte que le llamamos lúdica
And that is
cuestionadora,
what we
¿sí?,
called
que es donde una
questioning,
vez
playful
visualizados los videos,
sites.
los
Once you
docentes
have
que la
watched the
utilicen
clips,
las
the
pueden generar y
teachers
pueden seguir
using this
ampliando
can
esto,
generate and they
¿sí?
can
Y, por
expand this
ejemplo,
section.
frases como juguemos a encontrarnos, yo
For
soy,
instance,
¿qué me hace ser quien
quote
soy? ¿Qué
like,
quiero
let's
ser?
play
¿Qué
to
ven?
find each
Es
other.
parte de lo que Tacchini
What do you
trabaja, su
see?
autorreferencialidad, ¿sí?
So basically,
¿Quiénes
some
son los
questions
demás?
asked by
Mi imagen
Tacchini
dice
about
todo de mí,
herself and
puedo
about
ser
the
muchas
others.
personas a la vez, yo puedo
So he'll
ser.
have different quotes
Entonces,
by
esto
Tacchini.
genera en que los docentes planteen estas interrogantes a sus alumnos,
Basically,
y
teachers
se puede utilizar
can
también en
use
el arte
these
al momento
questions
de
as
volverse
triggers,
creativos,
and they can also
¿sí?
be used in
Algo
art.
que el videoarte ha trabajado como temática. El
Something that
videoarte
the
siempre ha
video
estado
art allows
apoyando
us
a
to
lo que son los
do. They have
movimientos
always
sociales,
provide
¿sí?
support
Eso
to
lo pueden
social
encontrar en lo que es
movements.
la historia del videoarte. Y
You can
Tacchini
see
ha sido
that
una
in the
persona muy
history of
abierta y
video art, and
colaborativa con sus
Tacchini has
colegas,
been very open
¿sí?
and has worked a
Desde
lot
los 80, cuando
with
ella
her
inicia en
colleagues.
videoarte a
As
la
from the
actualidad,
80s, when she started
toda su obra ha
working
sido muy
in video art,
autorreferencial,
all
como
her
dijimos de
work
antemano.
makes reference to
Y
herself.
bueno, eso es lo que queremos también, que la autorreferencialidad de Tacchini nos muestra a nosotros nuestra autorreferencialidad también, y lo que se puede lograr trabajando con el videoarte. Por acá más o menos estaría la presentación. Así que voy a dejar de compartir pantalla.
I'm going to stop
Y
sharing
te doy
now.
paso a vos, Delma.
And now, Delma, you have the floor. Thank you. Something very interesting to take into account about this project is that these keywords that you found and you included in that guide, these are words that connect the conceptual characteristics of the artist with content of the syllabus that teachers should follow. So that guide, in a way, it's a very good help to generate that relationship. So when we take that into account, all the theory and all the concepts that can be combined thanks to those keywords and the syllabus. I know you're gonna keep working on this and improving the platform. Maurice Benayon, that he has to leave, is very late in Hong Kong. Thank you very much for being today with us. And also we are going to be sharing all these materials once they are ready. So then we have to discuss which license to use to share the materials, Creative Commons, so that it's free for everyone. So thank you very much. And let's now get to the final part of the discussion and some brainstorming about the proposal of Professor Janken about what to do in the future about this group of projects. Today we have the presentations, but maybe we can have some interaction between the different projects. We can include some other projects in the DENMA projects. So what do you think can be done in the future when it comes to interconnection? Yeah, can you hear me? First, I would like to congratulate all the groups and all those that made this possible, to the artist, to Delma for guiding us during the project, and to all the students, because they were possible to do all these with such a small amount of time. And also to highlight that all the project, what they share is that they were using telematic the different formats and include the creation of a website, different ways of presenting that content and those interactions. It can be drawing, showing different objects, and also different narratives that were presented, and also a live performance, as we saw, all the different ways of telling a story and sharing the different productions. So I wanted to highlight that. And thinking about how to go on with this, from the telematic perspective, maybe the Denmark project, we can generate a space, a virtual space, in which we can upload content and all those productions that we create as teachers can be uploaded in that platform, so it can be used as input for the teachers. Because a deficit that we have is that in high school classrooms, this is not a topic that is very frequently dealt with. So those teachers that want to do some research or share this new media information are in general very limited. So I believe that to have an open space with some specific licenses for teachers to visit and take resources, that would be very interesting. Thank you. And so any more ideas, interaction, not only from the practical standpoint, but also the theoretical part, that individual reflection was very, very interesting. So what you generated in the theoretical part, I think that it's the area in which we have to focus to answer Jenkins' question about the future interconnection. I think that the key lies there. Maybe you don't remember that by heart, but it's important to take into account what you thought from the conceptual standpoint. Let's continue with the interactions. You have the floor. Morning, Delma. Morning to all the artists. Thank you very much for being part of this process, and also to all our classmates. I believe there are many things that are important and should be noted. First of all, that COVID allowed us basically to do this. That was the only way of implementing such a thing. In my case, COVID also helped me to discover new artists I had no idea that had been working for so long. I think it was a really good experience. We could keep growing as teachers and also in our research. Apparently, all the things were not that new since Diana, Graciela, they have been working for many, many years. Also, the other artists. So this basically made it possible to combine together all these artists. I think it was very interesting because I think it's the only way to do it. I wanted to especially thank Diana. I had to work with her material and I really, really liked it. And I also agree with what Benayon said. It's not only about the nice part of the work, but also to question and criticize why was done, why it wasn't done. So I think that telematic art takes us to that, to confront what we like and what we don't like. Basically, it's a group of emotions that are triggered by the works of the artist. Thank you very much to all of you. I think it's very important to generate materials that can be useful for the dissemination of our courses. Thank you.
Gracias, Silvia. Adelante, ¿quién más?
A mí, en relación a lo que decía la compañera.
Regarding what my classmates was saying, and what you, Delma, mentioned about the theoretical components, I was working on a question that was, why are you here? When you get to a museum or when you're looking at a piece of art, piece of work, that question, why are you here? So now I could change that question and I could change it to, what are you here for? That would be my new question. So this was a very change that question. And now we are protagonists.
Gracias. ¿Quién más? Adelante, 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 Lu.
Bien, por mi parte, y creo que por parte de varios.
On my side, and on behalf of some other classmates, I think Silvia has just mentioned that telematic electronic art is an art that has existed for many, many years, but in Uruguay still needs development. We have several artists working on digital telematic, but still it needs to be more disseminated. And I think this was the starting point so that we can start showing and showcasing this kind of art. In one of the groups I took part, that was from third year, we worked with Graciela Tacchini and Mariela Sheregui. At a certain point, we realized that one of the possible links with education was that in Uruguay we have Ceibal Plan. And basically that includes that all students have access to computers, internet. So that was great for a time of pandemic, that the one we're going through. Basically, it allows us to reach the students. And then as from the Plan Ceibal, we had some other tools like microbits that basically allowed us to see that we could perfectly well work together, especially in a subject like visual arts. We could work with IT, with robotics, and by doing this, join the different areas like Mariela Sheregui that works with electronic art without generating exactly the same thing, but also to do some research about her work and try to see in which way we could emulate or simulate project of this kind of electronic art, and we realize that it is very, very feasible. It's something that can be done. Most of the times we think it to be very extremely complex, but this process helps us to see otherwise. So this study made us aware of the fact that this should be included in the syllabus, because all contents that are presented will also be connected to this art. So I think it's very interesting, as Silvia said, if it hadn't been for the pandemic, we wouldn't be here today. Connected. At first, it was difficult to implement, then we got used to it. We come and go all the time. But I think it's a good starting point, and it helps us realize that it can really be implemented in the classroom. And that is our objective, our final objective, since we are teachers. So it is important to have all this knowledge so we can then use it in classroom. Especially today that young people are so connected. It's something that will allow us to get closer to the new generations. Thank you, Lou. According to what you are saying, Edward suggests in the chat basically about being here and now. Being here and now not only connects to prospect teachers in Uruguay, but also in the region and the world. Now and then of that network is that kind of interaction that allows us to have access and distribution. And now there's a lot of new meaning attached to this. You're getting all these materials for free. You will be sharing this for free with the others, that information to create new things. And that is the value of the role of the teacher. If they don't see where the interrelation is, then the teacher should know it and should show it if they cannot see it by themselves. So we can open up these new fields to the new generations so that they can explore. And of course, the teacher will also show the traditional aspect of art, but this exploration and this transformation of art cannot be ignored, of course, in the schools. And this includes primary, secondary, because those schools are the ones feeding society. So that is our small seed of work and the value of the teacher's role as a coordinator, facilitator. And let's hope you can continue on your work once you get your degree. I don't know whether there's any other comments. So then we can wrap it up. We are right on time. Shanken, please allow me to make some changes in the language channels so the interpreter can move it to Spanish. And by the way, I would like to thank Federico Blum, that is right now the only interpreter that is with us, because the other interpreters had to leave. I would
Eduard, sí, te escuchamos.
Thank you, Delma. I had to chuckle to myself when Lucia Garcia said we need to be able to connect with these new generations, because I see you as the new generations. which is a startling realization to myself. It makes me think about where I am, where my here and now is, not just geographically, but in terms of station of life. But one of the comments I wanted to make, I think I interrupted my own train of thought. Oh, that's what it was. One of the things that I really appreciate about your presentations today is how you have brought to life moments in history and artistic monuments and artists working at different moments in time. And I think, this is maybe my when I interrupted myself, it was in connection with that also. So one of the challenges I find in writing and teaching history of technological art in particular is that the technology, which was once so shiny and new and exciting and no one had ever experienced anything like this before, it's become utterly mundane. It's no big deal to get online and have an international Zoom conference with people from all around the world, something that Roy could have only dreamed of 40 years ago when he did his first telematic art projects, which is one of the students showed was all limited to ASCII text. So how, I don't have a great answer for this other than using lots of hand gestures, which are not as effective telematically as they are in class, in person, but to bring alive the excitement that people experienced when they first encountered some new technological artwork involving media in ways that no one had ever done before. So just that's just a kind of a question that I'd like to share with you, and a thought that I hope that you'll consider as you go off and teach young generations and younger generations throughout your careers.
Gracias, Edward, porque de eso se trató esta propuesta del
Thank you, Edward. This presentation was right about that, the relationship with the involvement to take ownership and the transformation of this content of new media art. That is what the challenge is. That's why we have these playful activities, these creative activities as key for transformation. I don't know if the students want to give some feedback about this. There's a line of research that can also be focus of the simultaneous interpretation, that focus on the time an interpreter can work without getting exhausted. So Federico has been interpreting for almost 2 hours now, so I would really appreciate that effort. So now let's work with these questions that we have. Apart from that approach, or taking into account the different generations, these teachers are in fact currently working with children and teenagers.
Personalmente, Delma,
personally, Delma, and to Edward that asked the question. I think it's not only about what we take to the classroom, but it also happened to me as a student to be surprised when discovering this artist. In my case, I don't know much about technology. I realized about that too. I learned a lot from my classmates. And also thanks to these virtual opportunities or some face-to-face meetings, basically that helped me to discover this whole new world. And as Edward said, I was surprised of all the very interesting things that we can find. And that motivates us to make progress and continuing discovering new things. At least that was what happened to me. So I think if that happened to me, it would be great to share that with my future students, that so that they can be surprised once again and continue on their own path. Thank you, Karen. That's why the strategy that we follow was to work together jointly in co-creation as a way of study and work. Thank you very much for that. Anyone else? Any other students? And if one of the artists wants to make a comment, we can finish with that. Monica and Wolfgang are thanking us for working on the history of the media arts. Any contribution by any other students? I know there was a traveling group, right, for Diana Dominguez exhibition on 2022. I think that is also part of the study, right, study process. That is a nice motivation to take into account.
Yo puedo, capaz una introducción chiquita, si no canso mucho tampoco. Algo que me interesó.
Something that I found interesting about what Shankan was saying is this element about how we get used to technology. So some things that we take for granted on an everyday basis, and that has to do with what we wanted to show with the Denma project. Basically to train the view on the new technologies and also to get used to that image through technology. And that has to do with that approach that we had, where we work the different images that are given to us from the exterior and how we take those as our own images. So we need to open that black box, as Flusser said, and give the students the tools to manipulate those images. In a way, it allows us to recreate his own image and take ownership of his own image. And also to be surprised by technology once again. So with the right tools, they can start playing and manipulating technology. Thank you, Germán, for those theoretical links and for your own reflections. Any other student that would like to make some more comments? I wanted to add something to what Germán said. The art is not linear anymore. It doesn't have a closing. It's undefined. And now with this virtual world, what's important is the process. And it tends to go beyond the limits of time and space and the body. Being able to be here and over there, the paradox of the virtual and the real, or having the real as the virtual. And that's what I wanted to show and work with Roy in the Denmark project, is to be there, right in the experience. Exactly, and what you created is very playful, interactive, but not only because it was fun, but because of the tools that you chose are strongly linked to theoretical concepts and practical concepts defined by Roy. So I think that is in a way a stage that we can continue developing, that describes the link between the content and its complement part. We believe there's a core there that can be further developed and further explored. One of the things that almost all of you have experienced and enjoyed, and that has been in a way the source of all the progress made in these works, basically it's exploration. So the teacher's role as an explorer, not only as a person that will be teaching some specific topics detailed in the syllabus, but also as someone that explores and expands and does that for the students. I think that's a whole experience in itself. Thank you, Fiorella, for your contribution. I'm gonna change now the language, so in case any of the artists want to make a final.
Gracias, Edward, por estar con nosotros. Gracias, Mónica y Wolfgang. Gracias, Roy, que seguías ahí conectado. Bueno, a Diana, que estuvo con nosotros, a Graciela Tacchini vía, bueno, las demás interconexiones. No sé si alguien quiere hacer algún comentario de los artistas. Bien, entonces volvemos a la configuración de español-inglés. Perfecto. Volvemos a la...
Okay, so now we go back to the previous configuration. Thank you very much for being today with us. Thank you for being part of this event where we shared all this work by the students. So now we are wrapping up. So let's have a round of applause for all of you, because we were together. So you can open your mics and we can come together.
Woohoo!
Chao. Le pregunto a Mónica si querían comentar algo, porque
Mónica, would you like to make a comment or anything, because you were writing in the chat?
Gracias. No, our micro is not working well. Do you understand me? Yeah? Yeah, good. No, I just want to say it was a really good experience to listen to all this.
Wait a minute that I change the setting for your translation. Wait a minute. Okay. Go ahead, Monica, for talking.
I want to say that I was really happy to see that teachers did work with this kind of art, of media art, because usually, as we heard from all of you, you were not that much experienced. And so I'm really happy that at least now it starts to go into, to train, that you get trained and that you give your experience to children or to students, that you work with them. And I was happy to hear that. I thought it would have been interesting to have more exchange between the individual teams and projects, and I'm looking forward to all the texts that were written in the meantime from the conference in the beginning. And yeah, I'm happy to see the website in the end. I just saw that, I didn't check the website yet, what was done. So thank you for all the work you have done.
Yeah, and in addition, I have an advice. Think about the difference between the image, maybe the image coming from video, and the digital image. Digital image. There's a large difference. Look, for example, at the Woody Vasulkas work, who explored this making of the digital image. So you can think about this.
Okay, Wolfgang mentioned all the time what was still important to see or to mention in context of some of your projects. But I think it was such a good start that you made with the help of Delma, and I'm really impressed of of this outcome. So.
Yeah, some addition, some excerpt. So this is not about images, I think, the digital. It was already mentioned that it is about process, but maybe different process than the one mentioned before. And the keyword still is interactivity. Even if it's obsolete to say, to work with this interactivity as a notion, because computers per se are interactive systems. And also, I wonder this focus on the telematic, because that's internet. So I'm not sure, because we in Germany have such strange movements that people with galleries come along and talking about new media art, and what they are showing is video. So maybe the difference is in linearity and non-linearity.
Okay, that's it. That's what we want to think, to ask you to think about. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bien, volvemos a cambiar y ya cerramos. Muchas gracias.
Okay, so now we finish with that. Thank you, Monica. Thank you, Wolfgang, for that input. Everything is recorded. And now thank you, Horacio Parsariza y Ana Adano, that they are recording both channels, English and Spanish, so we can have both versions. We're going to upload the recording so that you can have access to that, and all the contributions by the artists. We also have a Spanish version that will be uploaded in a couple of days. So now we're going to include all these in the repository so that we can continue working on the different contents. Thank you very much. Congratulations on your work. Keep working. We're going to be in contact in order to share all these, get your final grades, and provide all the context necessary so that we can distribute all these and can be used, and also to get input. So I would like to thank Federico Brun once again for his incredible job and his willingness to work. We planned this activity together from the interpreting and translation standpoint. We thought that we could translate all these materials into English and into Spanish. Of course, we didn't have time to do that, but we can probably do that in the future, in the next year. So we include that in the different projects to be implemented with the students. So thank you, Federico, for always being available and ready to work in this outreach work that we are doing together. And it's also a way of connecting different students. Thank you for that. So probably the content in English and in Spanish will be ready in the future. So in a couple of weeks, we're going to be also disseminating the minutes of this Congress. So there are some clips that are ready, they are subtitled and dubbed. It was great to see you all. So let's continue exploring. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Un abrazo a todos, nos vemos.
Chao, Karen.
Chao.
Chao, Eddie. Chao.
Chao. Chao.
Chao, chao.
Chao, que pasen lindo. Chao.
Buenas tardes.
Chao, Weinberg.